I've been in the Zhuji phase for a long time. I'm not afraid. Li Yundong sighed. Now that you mention it, I just remembered that I haven't reached the Zhuji phase yet. I've been delayed by the troubles of the secular world. Su Chan smiled. You'll reach the Zhuji phase when we get back. Don't worry. Let's eat first. Li Yundong nodded and took Su Chan to the barbecue stall. He bought 9 skewers of grilled squid, 3 for each of them. They ate as they walked. When they reached the entrance of McDonald's, Su Chan pointed at the fake McDonald's and said, I want to eat the ice cream here. Li Yundong smiled lovingly. Okay. The two of them walked to the ice cream delivery window. Li Yundong said, 2 sundaes, please. The waiter behind the window asked, what flavor? Li Yundong turned his head and asked Su Chan, what flavor do you want? Su Chan was enjoying the grilled squid so much that she sucked in a breath of cold air. She fanned her mouth and asked, what flavors do you have? There are chocolate, vanilla, taro, and other flavors, the waiter said. Su Chan looked at Li Yundong, at a loss. She didn't know what the 3 flavors were. She looked at the grilled squid in her hand and suddenly asked, do you have a spicy flavor? The corner of the waiter's eyes twitched. She didn't know how to answer, so she looked at Li Yundong as if asking for help. Li Yundong laughed so hard that he couldn't breathe. His mischievous spirit returned, and he said to the waiter seriously, the little girl is naughty. Just ignore her. The waiter laughed a few times and asked dryly, what flavor do you want? Li Yundong thought about it seriously and said, give her a garlic flavor. The corner of the waiter's eyes twitched again. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she looked at Li Yundong's serious face and felt that he didn't seem to be joking, so she explained patiently, Sir, we don't have these 2 flavors of ice cream here. Go to CNET. Rainbow ** literature _learning %super #fast. Update. C. Li Yundong said in surprise, really? But I have all kinds of food at KFC. The waiter was shocked. KFC sells spicy and garlic sundaes? Li Yundong looked even more surprised than she was. What? You didn't know? The waiter looked frightened and confused. I didn't know. Li Yundong tried hard to hold back his laughter. He laughed so hard that his intestines were about to break. He said with a look of blame, hey, you guys can't keep up with the evolution of the varieties. Forget it, just give me a vanilla and a chocolate one. Alas, what a killjoy. The waiter made 2 sundaes for Li Yundong and handed them to him. Li Yundong searched his body and found that he had given all his money to Su Chan. He said to her, hey, pay up. Su Chan nodded and took out the money and handed it to Li Yundong. After Li Yundong paid the bill, he dragged Su Chan away, sighing as he walked. The waiter looked at him in bewilderment. The little girl pouted, and tears immediately welled up in her eyes, as if they were about to drip down. Li Yundong saw that the girl was going to cry. He quickly took the key out and handed it to Su Chan. Su Chan immediately burst into laughter and took the key. Humph, she said, shaking her head. Now all your money is in my hands, she said. You have to listen to me. With that, Su Chan proudly stuffed the key into the piggy bank, then held the piggy bank tightly in her arms. Let's see how you're going to snatch it from me again, she said. Li Yundong laughed. You big idiot, he said. You put the key in too. How are you going to open it later? Huh? That's right. Su Chan suddenly came to her senses. She quickly took out the piggy bank and tried to pull the lock, but it didn't budge. She stared at Li Yundong. What should I do? Li Yundong tried hard not to laugh. He pinched Su Chan's cheek. Now you know how pigs die, don't you? Stupid pig. Stupid pig. You can smash it when you need money in the future. Now, let's go home. Oh. She followed Li Yundong for a while, then suddenly thought of something. She looked up and asked, "But I can't open the piggy bank. What if you secretly take money when I'm not around?" "But I can't open the piggy bank. What if you secretly take money when I'm not around?" Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "If you can't open it, do you think I can? What's your IQ?" Su Chan blinked. "What's IQ?" Li Yundong slapped his forehead. "Forget it. Let's go home. We've been wandering around for so long. I don't think that guy will come after us again." Then, he suddenly thought of something. "By the way, do you think they'll wait for us at our place?" Su Chan's mind was on the piggy bank in her arms. "I don't think so," she said casually. Li Yundong thought for a moment. "Forget it. Let's go back to the hotel and get our things. If it doesn't work, we can return the house. We can get a refund for the deposit." The two of them took a taxi home. When they arrived at the door, Su Chan couldn't help but smile happily at the thought that Li Yundong would make hot food when they got home. "Open the door. Open the door. I want to eat," Su Chan urged. Li Yundong opened the door and sighed. "Hey, why do you only know how to eat? Didn't you eat a lot just now? Are you hungry again? Are you still growing?" Su Chan's eyes turned into crescent moons. "Yeah. How did you know?" Li Yundong opened the door and changed his shoes at the door. "Of course I know. I check your body often. Come, come. Let me check your body." Su Chan entered the door and changed her shoes. She giggled and was about to say something when her expression suddenly changed. "Yundong, watch out," she shouted. All of a sudden, a figure appeared behind Li Yundong. The figure was shaped like a monkey. Like a cannon, it punched at Li Yundong's waist. Almost at the same time, a figure appeared in the living room. "Demon," he shouted. "Die." Then, a green light went straight for Su Chan. C/OM/. Chapter 136. Go to watch net. Lin Yu's sneak attack was fast and fierce. If this punch hit Li Yundong's waist, Li Yundong's kidney would be crippled. Go to watch net. Go to watch net. The kidneys were the guards of the 5 internal organs. If a person was compared to a country, then the kidneys were the national defense forces of the country, specifically used to resolve all kinds of internal and external troubles of the country. If the kidneys were damaged, then the national defense forces of the country would collapse. Although it would not be immediately destroyed, it was inevitable that the country would be weak. A strong kidney would make a person energetic and powerful. A weak kidney would make a person listless and weak. In traditional Chinese medicine, it was believed that all diseases start from the kidneys. The root cause of all diseases could be found in the kidneys, which showed the importance of the kidneys among the 5 internal organs. If Li Yundong's kidneys were damaged, not only would he be unable to cultivate for the rest of his life, but he would also become a useless person who could not carry anything on his shoulders. When Su Chan saw this, she was shocked and anxious. She ignored herself and rushed toward Lin Yu, who was behind Li Yundong. Li Yundong, on the other hand, saw a green light rushing toward Su Chan. All he could think of was Su Chan. He also ignored Lin Yu behind him and went straight to Su Chan. The two of them only had each other in their hearts, but a strange combination of factors caused a mismatch. The duel that was supposed to be won by Ruan Hongling against Su Chan and Lin Yu against Li Yundong had become Su Chan against Lin Yu, and Li Yundong against Ruan Hongling. Lin Youqing's divine power could be said to be amazing. His strength was a bit greater than Li Yundong's, but his speed had decreased because of this. What he was most afraid of was an opponent like Su Chan, who was extremely fast. Similarly, although Wan Hongling's spiritual power was stronger than Li Yundong's and Su Chan's, she was born with extreme yin qi. She was most afraid of Li Yundong's pure yang qi, which did not have a trace of yin qi. In the blink of an eye, Li Yundong and Su Chan had destroyed the sure-kill situation that Wan Hongling and Lin Yu had created. If either Li Yundong or Su Chan had the slightest bit of selfishness, they would immediately be entangled by Wan Hongling and Lin Yu, and the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Wan Hongling had used 3 mysterious sky bone-piercing nails to deliver the killing blow. Even though they missed Su Chan's vitals, one of them still nailed Su Chan's shoulder. Su Chan let out a muffled groan in pain. Su Chan pounced on Li Yundong, blocking his fist with one hand and striking at Lin Yu's chest with the other. The power of Lin Yu's punch was no small matter. Su Chan caught it with her palm. With a crack, the sound of bones breaking came from her forearm. She immediately groaned in pain. At this time, Li Yunyang pounced on Wan Hongling like a cannonball. He punched at Wan Hongling, and the majestic and vigorous Jindan's qi in his body was like a blazing flame, burning Wan Hongling so much that she screamed and quickly retreated. As soon as Li Yundong's punch missed, he heard Su Chan moan in pain. He turned his head to look, and his eyes immediately widened. His hair stood on end. He was furious. "You're courting death." When a person was extremely angry, they would lose their rationality, but at the same time, their strength would multiply. The reason was that when a person was angry, their heart would beat faster, and their blood would flow faster. The liver would quickly release a large amount of blood and liver qi. This qi and blood would quickly circulate throughout the body, and then mobilize the yuanyang qi hidden deep in the body, allowing a person to exert strength that they normally couldn't. Go to the internet. 7. KOM. Literature. Ordinary people usually had the strength of 50 kilograms, but when they were angry, they could have the strength of 150 kilograms, or even 200 kilograms. This was already the case for ordinary people, so Li Yundong's Jindan body was even more frightening. The functions of Li Yundong's 5 internal organs were more than 10 times that of ordinary people. Once he moved, his strength was unbelievably terrifying. Li Yundong's heart thumped wildly, as if a mighty general was beating a war drum with all his might. The sound of the war drum was passionate and indignant, and all the organs in Li Yundong's body entered a state of excitement and fanaticism. Then, Li Yundong's liver began to release visceral qi and blood, and his kidneys began to secrete adrenaline and kidney qi crazily. The liver was the general, and it was in charge of external attacks. The kidneys were the guards, and they were in charge of internal attacks. The qi and blood produced by these 2 organs, one inside and one outside, were like a mighty army, constantly sent to every part of Li Yundong's body, making him full of divine power. The qi and blood in Li Yundong's body surged wildly, and all the bones in his body crackled like beans being fried. His whole body seemed to have swelled up, his muscles bulged, and his blood vessels protruded like old vines. Li Yundong shouted and slapped Lin Yu with his palm. The air around him was squeezed by him to the point that it seemed to have been sucked dry, turning into a vacuum. Although Lin Yu had invited a god to possess him, he had done it twice in a day, which had consumed a lot of his qi and blood. Seeing that Li Yundong's palm was coming at him fiercely, he gritted his teeth, turned his wrist, and slapped Li Yundong's palm. "You're courting death." Li Yundong's face was full of blood vessels, and he looked extremely ferocious. As soon as his palm touched Lin Yu, the Jindan's primordial qi in his body roared like a flood opening a dam. "Pa!" A crisp sound rang out. As soon as their arms touched, the floor of the room shook violently. Su Chan saw that the 2 of them were suddenly in a stalemate. She endured the pain, stretched out her other hand, and pointed at the Huagai acupoint on Lin Yu's chest. If the Huagai acupoint was hit, then the qi flowing up and down in the human body would be blocked. It was like a midstream hitting the water. It was like a battle at the front, and the rear was intercepted by someone. It could cause chaos in the army without a fight. When Ruan Hongling saw Su Chan make a move, she shouted and swung her hand. Another mysterious sky bone-piercing nail went straight for Su Chan's chest. Su Chan only wanted to help Li Yundong out, and she put her own safety at the back of her mind. She didn't dodge. She just gritted her teeth and barely moved her body, not letting the bone-piercing nail hit her vitals. Her slender hand still kept moving towards Lin Yu. Lin Yu was hit in the chest by Su Chan. He suddenly felt his chest tighten and short of breath, and he was powerless. Li Yundong suddenly shouted and pressed down with his palm. With a crack, the bones of Lin Yu's forearm were instantly shattered, and his whole body knelt down with a bang. Almost at the same time, Su Chan's chest was hit by Ruan Hongling's mysterious sky bone-piercing nail, and blood splattered everywhere. Go to see the net. Watch. Lin Yu let out a wild roar and quickly flashed out of the door. In a few flashes, he disappeared into the building. He turned his head and glared at Ruan Hongling like an angry King Kong. You hurt people again and again. Do you really think I can't kill you just because you're a woman? Ruan Hongling's face darkened. She looked at Ruan Hongling coldly. Li Yundong's words were murderous and creepy, but Ruan Hongling, as an inner disciple of the Supreme Taoist sect, was not someone who would be scared away by a few words. Ruan Hongling stood on the edge of the balcony and scolded angrily, "You ignorant fool, don't you know that the woman in your arms is a fox spirit? Aren't you afraid that she will suck up all your yang qi in the future and turn you into a human? Don't you know that humans and demons are different and can't coexist? Those who violate it will go against the law of heaven." At this time, Li Yundong was furious. How could he listen to her? He stood up, his eyes fierce and terrifying. He took a deep breath, and the qi in his body surged to his throat. Then, he suddenly shouted, "Get out!" Boom! Like a spring thunder, all the glass in the room shattered with a crash. The thunder talisman in Li Yundong's pocket floated out automatically as if it had a life of its own, shining with a burst of blue light in the air. Ruan Hongling was hit by the sound wave of the rolling yang qi. Suddenly, her qi and blood became restless, and the soul in her body was almost shaken out of her body. Ruan Hongling was shocked. She knew that if she let the boy in front of her roar again, the soul in her body would be shaken out of her body. In broad daylight, when the yang qi was at its strongest, the soul coming out of her body was really courting death. Moreover, the talisman floating in front of Li Yundong made Ruan Hongling tremble with fear. This is the Five Thunders righteous talisman? Ruan Hongling was so shocked that her face turned pale. Her heart was pounding. She looked at Li Yundong and Su Chan with hatred, not daring to stay any longer. Her body turned into a blue light and left like lightning. Seeing her leave, Li Yundong quickly put away the talisman, drew the curtains, and then carried Su Chan to the bedroom. He asked nervously, "Su Chan, how are you? Say something, don't scare me." Su Chan's face was as pale as paper, and her lips were pale. At this time, she was being tortured by the immortal qi of the mysterious sky bone-piercing nail. Her body kept rolling on the bed, her hands and feet curled into a ball, and her body kept trembling. Li Yundong was so scared that his face turned pale. He picked up Su Chan and said, "Hold on, I'll take you to the hospital." When Su Chan heard this, she immediately grabbed Li Yundong's collar and struggled to say in a trembling voice, "Don't go, I'm fine. Take me back to the hotel. It's not safe here." Without saying anything, Li Yundong rushed out with Su Chan in his arms. When Su Chan reached the door, she suddenly remembered something. She pointed into the room and said reluctantly, There's something else." Li Yundong turned his head and saw Su Chan pointing at the pink He 11 Kitty piggy bank lying on the carpet in the living room. Li Yundong didn't know whether he should be angry or laugh. Are you still thinking about that thing at a time like this? The little girl's body shrank into a ball in Li Yundong's arms, as if she was very cold. She couldn't help trembling and struggling to say, "Money, you'll have no money to spend." Li Yundong's heart shook, and he almost burst into tears. He picked up the piggy bank, then rushed downstairs with Su Chan in his arms. He stopped a taxi on the side of the road and shouted the address to the taxi driver. As the taxi driver drove, he kept looking at Su Chan and Li Yundong through the rearview mirror, feeling surprised and doubtful. Li Yundong gripped the piggy bank tightly. He was about to smash it open and take out the money to pay the taxi fare when Su Chan grabbed him and whispered, "Don't. Don't smash it. I still have money in my pocket." Li Yundong was stunned. He reached into Su Chan's pocket and found a 50 yuan note. "Didn't you put all of it in there?" he asked. Su Chan forced a smile. "I was afraid that one day you'd take the piggy bank away and abandon me. I can still use this money to find you." Li Yundong laughed, but his tears kept falling. He wiped away the tears on his face and stroked the messy hair on the little girl's cheeks lovingly. "Don't be silly. How could I not want you?" Su Chan gripped the hem of Li Yundong's shirt tightly. You won't abandon me just because I'm a witch, will you?" Li Yundong nodded. His voice was choked with sobs. "Yes. Little girl will always be my little girl, this uncle will never abandon you." Su Chan felt a little relieved. Although the two of them spoke in a low voice in the back seat, the driver in the front seat could hear them clearly. Although he didn't know what happened between the young man and woman in the back seat, the two of them spoke with deep attachment and lingering affection for each other. Their tone was lingering and sad. Even an iron man would be moved and a stone man would cry if he heard it. The driver was touched by their love. He stepped on the accelerator and arrived at the destination in 10 minutes. Li Yundong didn't have time to thank the driver. He dropped the 50 yuan note and rushed back to the hotel with Su Chan in his arms. As soon as they entered the hotel, Li Yundong closed the door and put Su Chan on the bed. "Su Chan, are you okay?" he asked anxiously. Su Chan's teeth were chattering. I'm fine," she said. "Turn around. Don't look at me. I'll be fine by myself for a while." Li Yundong looked at the large patch of blood on her chest in confusion. He pointed at it and asked anxiously, "Are you okay here?" Su Chan said in a trembling voice, "No, I'm fine. It's just a minor injury. The real injury is the Xiantian bone-piercing nail made of the immortal qi of the Zhengyi school. As soon as it enters my body, it turns into a bone-eating qi, which is extremely painful. I have to force this qi out. You turn around. Don't look at me, okay? Please." Li Yundong didn't know why Su Chan wanted him to turn around, but he still nodded, turned around, and shouted at the wall, "Is this okay? Do you really not want my help?" Su Chan sat cross-legged on the bed and begged, "No, I can do it myself, but you must not turn around." Li Yundong was more and more confused, but he suppressed his curiosity and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. His mind was in a mess. When Su Chan saw Li Yundong turn around, she took a deep breath. Her lower abdomen bulged slightly and then quickly contracted. Slowly, her chest rose and fell, and her throat moved up and down, like a wave pushing something in her body to her throat. After a while, Su Chan suddenly spat out a 5-colored bead. It was her niden. As soon as this niden was spat out, the whole room suddenly shone brightly. Li Yundong was surprised and suspicious. Just as he was about to look back, he heard Su Chan say sadly, "Don't look back, please, Yundong." Only then did Li Yundong resist the urge and sit up straight. After the Niden was spat out by Su Chan, it kept spinning in front of her, emitting cyan gossamer. These gossamer went into Su Chan's body one by one and drew out the white gossamer inside her. As the Niden left Su Chan's body for a long time, Su Chan's body became more and more itchy. She knew that it was because she had lost the protection of the Niden and was about to reveal her true form. Su Chan was shocked and scared. She was afraid that her true form would be discovered by Li Yundong. But if she didn't pull out the bone-eating qi in her body as soon as possible, her life would be in danger. Su Chan was on tenterhooks as she pulled the bone-devouring qi out of her body. She kept praying in her heart that he wouldn't turn around. Bit by bit, the bone-devouring qi was extracted from her body, and she slowly turned into her fox form. This long and painful process of pulling out the qi was like the worst torture in the world. Su Chan felt that this time was as long as centuries. Li Yundong also felt that such a wait was a kind of deep torture. He really wanted to look back and see what was going on behind him, but he was also very worried that something would happen to Su Chan. However, he didn't want to disobey Su Chan's plea, so he could only grit his teeth and bear it. After an unknown amount of time, Su Chan finished pulling out all the bone-eating qi in her body and swallowed the Niden back into her body. Suddenly, the colorful light in the room dimmed. Li Yundong saw that the light had disappeared and was immediately overjoyed. He thought that Su Chan had finished pulling out the qi, so he turned around and asked anxiously, "What happened to you?" Before he could finish his words, he saw Su Chan looking at him in shock and fear. Her mouth opened and closed as if she wanted to say something. Li Yundong touched Su Chan's forehead with his hand in confusion. "What's wrong with you? What's the problem?" Su Chan looked frightened and subconsciously moved her body. Li Yundong followed her movements and suddenly froze on the spot. He saw a fluffy red fox tail pressing down on Su Chan's body, and he couldn't hide it no matter how hard he tried. Li Yundong stared at the fox tail in a daze, and there was a buzzing sound in his head. C/OM/ Chapter 137. Go to the internet. Why didn't she let me turn around? Why was her identity so strange? Why was she always afraid that I would dislike her? Why did Wan Hongling say that she was a witch? Li Yundong's mind rumbled. Countless thoughts surged through his mind at this moment, and finally turned into one thought. So Su Chan is really a vixen? Why didn't I think of it? Li Yundong stared straight at the fluffy fox's tail. He opened his mouth, and there were countless words in his mind that he wanted to say, but the words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't say a word. Go to the internet. 7KOM. Su Chan also stared blankly at Li Yundong. Her expression was one of horror and fear. What she had been hiding had finally been discovered. He had finally discovered that she was a wild fox. He had finally discovered that she had been hiding from him and deceiving him. Yundong. Why won't you listen to me and not look back? Su Chan looked at Li Yundong blankly, feeling as if her heart had been pricked by a needle. She summoned up her courage and said in a trembling voice, "Yundong." Li Yundong seemed to wake up from a dream and suddenly raised his head. For a moment, he couldn't turn around and looked at Su Chan with a blank expression. For a moment, he didn't know how to face this vixen who had been with him day and night. After all, human beings and demons were different. Li Yundong subconsciously took a step back and stammered, I. Li Yundong's bewildered expression and subconscious actions were like a cruel and sharp knife, tearing Su Chan's soft and sensitive heart into pieces. He dislikes me, he dislikes me. Su Chan's head buzzed and went blank. Her heart seemed to be grabbed by someone and squeezed so hard that she couldn't breathe. Li Yundong's mind was in a mess. He stared at Su Chan in a daze, and Su Chan stared at him in a daze. The two of them looked at each other, and this familiar gaze suddenly seemed so strange. He glanced at the bloodstains on her chest and hurriedly found an excuse to hide in the bathroom. I'll get you a towel," he said. I'll go get you a towel," he said. I'll get you a towel." Li Yundong rushed into the bathroom and put his hands in front of the sink. It seemed that if he didn't use his strength to support himself, his body would softly sit down. This boy, who had been amazing when he was fighting with Lin Youfa before, now felt as if all his strength had been sucked away by someone. He was flustered, he was terrified, he was at a loss. He turned on the tap and let the water flow. Then, he washed his face again and again with the cold water, as if he could face this familiar stranger. What should I do?" Ruan Hongling's fierce words kept echoing in his mind. "Don't you know that the woman in your arms is a vixen? Aren't you afraid that she'll suck your yang energy dry in the future and squeeze you dry? Don't you know that humans and demons are different? They can't coexist. Violators are against the laws of heaven." In the past, Li Yundong would have regarded such words as nonsense and scoffed at them. But when he saw Su Chan's fox tail with his own eyes, how could he not believe these things? Li Yundong pulled at his hair with all his might and kept circling in the bathroom like a sleepy beast. He kept muttering to himself, "Why didn't she tell me earlier? Why did she hide it from me? Is she really like what Ruan Hongling said? Does she want to suck my yang energy dry? Calm down, calm down." Li Yundong kept saying to himself in his mind. He patted his cheek hard, raised his head, looked at himself in the mirror on the sink, and whispered to himself, "Li Yundong, don't think too much. Su Chan didn't tell you because she was worried that you would dislike her. She was afraid that you wouldn't want her anymore. Look at the internet. 7KOM. Think about it, has she ever hurt you? Has she ever despised you, a useless piece of trash? By the way, you can ask her. Su Chan will tell you." Li Yundong made up his mind. His eyes gradually became firm, and his expression became much more natural. When he walked out of the door, he took a deep breath and showed a gentle smile on his face. "Su Chan, you." But before Li Yundong could finish his words, he saw that the hotel was empty. The bed was empty, and the room was empty. At this moment, Li Yundong's heart was also empty, as if he had lost his soul. She's gone." Li Yundong's eyes widened. His body stood there as if he had been immobilized. The smile on his face froze in an instant, and his heart fell to the bottom of a cold valley. Only when a person loses something would they know how precious it is. Su Chan. Li Yundong's whole body was cold, and he suddenly realized that he had made an unforgivable mistake. She was so sensitive, so afraid that I would dislike her. Even when she was seriously injured, she didn't forget to repeat this to me, but why couldn't I think of this? Where would she go? Where could she go? The more Li Yundong thought about it, the more scared he became. He was so anxious that he didn't know what to say or do. It was as if the sky was dark at this moment. Li Yundong walked around the room in a panic and found that Su Chan hadn't taken anything with her when she left. The pink piggy bank was lying obediently in the corner of the bed, motionless. "Humph, now all your money is in my hands. Uncle, you have to be obedient and listen to this little girl." The little girl seemed to be smiling sweetly in front of him, and then stupidly stuffed the key into the piggy bank. Li Yundong raised his head and tried hard not to let his tears fall, but in the haze of tears, he clearly saw the little girl holding the corner of his clothes tightly. Although she was seriously injured, she still forced a smile at him. "I'm afraid that one day you will take away the piggy bank and don't want me anymore. I can still use this money to find you." Li Yundong's lips trembled, and his tears quickly gushed out. He murmured, "The little girl won't leave me, she won't leave me. By the way, she must have gone home." Thinking of this, Li Yundong immediately rushed out of the door, out of the hotel, stopped a taxi, and went straight to his and the little girl's home. She must be here, she must be here, she has nowhere to go. Li Yundong kept comforting himself, his eyes red and his heart burning with anxiety. After finally arriving at Hongsheng New District, Li Yundong rushed out of the car without even paying the fare. The driver stuck his head out of the car and scolded him, but Li Yundong acted as if he didn't hear him. Li Yundong rushed into his home, opened the door, and shouted, "Su Chan." His voice spread out in the room, but there was no echo, only a floor full of broken glass and withered eyes. Li Yundong's heart was cold, and his hands and feet couldn't help but tremble. He looked for Su Chan room by room, shouting her name loudly in every room, as if in the next second, she would suddenly appear behind him like last time. Go to the internet. Then why did you talk again? Weren't you afraid of being discovered at that time? Li Yundong couldn't help but think of the little girl's voice and smile again. Because I was afraid that you would be worried about me. I saw that you couldn't find me, and I was very sad, so I couldn't help but. At that time, the little girl's eyes were full of tenderness and deep worry. She was afraid that he would leave her behind, so she would rather expose herself than let Li Yundong worry and be afraid. Fool, where are you? Li Yundong's eyes were full of tears. He raised his head and sighed, muttering to himself. Li Yundong stood in the spacious living room in a daze, like a frozen stone statue. He clearly remembered a stubborn girl shouting at a group of indifferent people and a Philistine landlady, "Li Yundong is the best person in the world to me, and he will definitely become a great hero in the future. I won't leave him." He could still clearly remember the little girl throwing herself into his arms. She cried and swore, "I believe that sooner or later, you will become a great hero. I just believe it." What Li Yundong couldn't forget was a beautiful girl pointing at him and saying confidently to a rich man, "You must remember his name. His name is Li Yundong, and he is my partner. Although he is a nobody now, I promise you that in less than 2 years, his name will be famous all over the world. At that time, what you can do, he can do without any effort, but what he can do, you will never be able to do." Thinking about it, Li Yundong couldn't help but burst into tears. Li Yundong, you are the most ungrateful person in the world. You even suspected that Su Chan would hurt you. She treated you like this, but you treat her like this? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Regret, pain, memories, and longing rushed over like a surging tide, drowning Li Yundong in an instant, making his heart ache so much that he couldn't breathe and his whole body trembled. Standing in this spacious and empty living room, the warm and bright home in the past was now cold and dim. Li Yunyan kept replaying the scenes in his mind one after another. The bits and pieces of his life were like thousands of thin threads that tightly tied him together, making him finally understand one thing. Even if she was a vixen, so what? Could it be that the usual laughter, love, and sweetness were all fake? Could it be that her sincerity towards him was also fake? Su Chan, where are you? I don't care who you are, I only know that you are my girl, the girl that will never change. Come back quickly. Li Yundong suddenly shouted. His voice was emotional and sorrowful, and it spread far and wide. However, Su Chan's voice never sounded here. Li Yundong was almost desperate. He rushed out of the door crazily and ran on the street like a headless fly, shouting Su Chan's name everywhere, like a trapped beast, like a madman, and all the passers-by looked sideways. After searching for a long time, Li Yundong suddenly thought of something. He suddenly stood on the street in a daze, and his eyes suddenly became brighter and brighter. Then, he suddenly broke into a run and rushed toward a place. Yes, she must be there, she must be there. Li Yundong shouted like a hysterical madman. Su Chan turned into a blue light and left the hotel. When she appeared, she found herself standing on a strange street, surrounded by surging crowds and noisy traffic. The towering buildings looked so strict and indifferent. Just now, Su Chan just wanted to escape from that place and avoid Li Yundong's eyes, but she didn't know where she was going or where she could go. Su Chan stood on the street in a daze and suddenly found that she had no one to rely on. She was alone, and the world was so big, but there was nowhere to go. Su Chan regretted it. She wanted to go back, but she thought of what Li Yundong had said to her before. "Don't hide anything from me in the future, or I will dislike you." Su Chan couldn't help but cry. He found out that I've been lying to him. He dislikes me. He doesn't want me anymore. No one will love me in the future. Thinking of this, Su Chan couldn't help but burst into tears. She walked alone, wiping the tears that kept falling. She didn't know where she was going, so she just walked aimlessly on the street. Unconsciously, Su Chan found herself in the amusement park that she had been to with Li Yundong before. She didn't even know how the guard at the gate let her in. Seeing this familiar scene, Su Chan's tears fell harder and harder, attracting the attention of the people around her. Chapter 138. Go to watch net. Li Yundong and Su Chan had no idea how long they cuddled and hugged each other until the moon was covered by the clouds, as if they were too embarrassed to look at the lovey-dovey couple any longer. Watch net. 7 K.O. The little girl gradually got tired of crying. She sobbed from time to time. She wiped her tears and hummed, "Why did you think of looking for me here?" Li Yundong wiped the girl's tears with a smile and said, "Haven't you heard of this saying?" The little girl cried so hard that her nose was stuffy. She said in a nasal voice, "What are you talking about?" Li Yunyang said with a smile, "I don't have the flying wings of the colorful phoenix, but my heart is connected." The little girl burst out laughing, "Who has a telepathic connection with you?" "You're so annoying." Li Yundong chuckled. He stretched out his sleeve and handed it to the little girl. "Hurry up and wipe your nose. You've got snot bubbles coming out." Su Chan said angrily, "You're the one who has snot bubbles coming out of your nose. You're so annoying." "I'm not." But as she said this, she grabbed Li Yundong's sleeve and wiped her face like a cat washing its face. Su Chan let go of Li Yundong's arm in satisfaction. She looked up and saw Li Yundong smiling at her. She couldn't help but blush. "What are you looking at? Don't laugh at me." Li Yundong smiled and said, "Okay, I won't laugh at you. But come closer and I'll tell you a secret," in a low voice. Su Chan leaned over curiously and whispered, "What secret?" Li Yundong said in a low voice, "Actually, you wiped your snot all over your face just now." Su Chan turned pale with fright and shouted, "Ah! It can't be, right? What are you going to do about it?" With that, she buried her face in her hands and buried her head in Li Yundong's arms. Li Yundong burst out laughing. "I was just kidding." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to pull the little lass up, but the little lass covered her face and refused to lift her head. After Li Yundong tried to persuade her, the little girl wiped it repeatedly with her hand. Then, she raised her head with a flushed face and asked nervously, "Is there anything else? Will it become ugly?" Li Yundong smiled and pinched the girl's cheek. "Silly, I told you I was lying to you. Watch net. 7 K.O.M. Net. Super_speed. More. New." Su Chan couldn't help but say angrily, "You're so annoying. You're so naughty. I don't want to talk to you anymore." How could Li Yundong allow the little girl to escape from his grasp? He quickly hugged the little girl and pulled her into his arms. He held her tightly with both hands and said, "Where are you going?" Su Chan giggled and held Li Yundong's arm tightly with both hands. Her heart was warm, full, and full. She felt very warm and safe. Under the moonlight, Li Yundong saw that the girl had bright eyes and white teeth. Her eyes were like water, and she was indescribably bright and lovely. He couldn't help but lower his head and kiss her gently on her rosy lips. Su Chan's body trembled and she unconsciously softened. She raised her head and stared at Li Yundong, murmuring, "Yundong, aren't you afraid that I'm a vixen?" Li Yundong laughed. "Don't you know that I like little vixens like you?" As he said this, he reached out to touch the little girl's breasts. "Where are you hiding your tail? Let me see." The most sensitive part of Su Chan's body was at the pubic bone. When Li Yundong's fingers touched her, her whole body suddenly trembled as if she had been electrocuted. She said in a trembling voice, "Don't touch there." Li Yundong stopped and said with a smile, "I won't touch it if you tell me where you're hiding your tail." Su Chan moaned and hid her head in Li Yundong's arms. She said in a low, muffled voice, "I won't tell you." Li Yundong smiled and reached out to touch the little girl's pubic bone. The little girl was so scared that she hurriedly begged for mercy. "I'll tell you, I'll tell you." Su Chan blushed and said, "Only after I spit out the Niden and my spiritual energy is greatly reduced will I show my true form. Now I can't see it, let alone touch it." Li Yundong was a little disappointed. He held the little girl in his arms and sat on the lift platform of the space shuttle, saying, "I was wondering why you didn't let me turn my head at that time." Su Chan couldn't help but say angrily, "I told you not to look back, but you did." Li Yundong smiled embarrassedly and said, "I thought you were done. However, you shouldn't have hidden this from me." Su Chan pouted and said, "I was afraid that you would dislike me." As she spoke, she suddenly thought of something and her expression became timid. She pulled at Li Yundong's clothes with her fingers and said weakly, "Yundong, there's one more thing I haven't told you." Li Yundong's face darkened and he pretended to be angry. "Good girl, you're still hiding something from me. Tell me, confess and I'll be lenient. Resist and you'll be severely punished." Su Chan said timidly, "When you swallowed my Renyuan Jindan, I did want to squeeze you dry." Li Yundong was stunned and stared at Su Chan with his eyes wide open. "Are you serious?" Su Chan shrunk her head and nodded, as if she knew that she had done something wrong. Go to see net. Hongjiom. Li Yundong couldn't help but ask, "So you don't want to do it now?" Su Chan nodded quickly. Yes, yes, yes." "Why?" Li Yundong said with a smile. Su Chan held Li Yundong's arm and counted the good things that Li Yundong had done for her in the past. She said, "You treated me so well later, so of course I couldn't bear to do it." "Humph, you're so lucky. My Renyuan Jindan was given to you for free. Do you know how many people want this Renyuan Jindan?" Li Yundong couldn't help but chuckle. He pressed his forehead against the girl's. "You idiot," he said. "I'm really lucky because I have you." Su Chan was happy and touched to hear that. She couldn't help but look at Li Yundong with more and more infatuated eyes. Su Chan's cheeks were flushed, and her nostrils flared. "Yundong, kiss me," she said passionately. Li Yundong cupped the girl's cheeks with both hands and kissed her deeply. The kiss was like a bolt of lightning that ignited the fire of the earth. The two of them immediately tangled their tongues. The two of them kissed for a long time until they were both out of breath. Only then did they separate, panting. "My mouth is numb," Su Chan said with a giggle. Li Yundong also laughed. "My tongue is numb from your sucking." Su Chan's cheeks turned crimson. She rushed over and covered Li Yundong's mouth. "You're not allowed to say it." Li Yundong laughed and dodged. "There's no one here." "What are you afraid of?" Su Chan giggled and said, "No means no." Li Yundong was aroused by the girl's natural charm. He couldn't help but reach out to take her hand and then touch it under his lower abdomen. He said in a low voice, "Girl, you've aroused the fire of your master. What do you think I should do?" When Su Chan's hand touched the hot and hard thing, she was so scared that she suddenly retracted her hand. Her whole body melted into Li Yundong's arms like a pool of spring water. She whimpered, "Yundong, I can't do it now." Li Yundong smiled bitterly. "When can I do it?" Su Chan's cheeks were so red that they seemed to be dripping blood. She said in a low voice, "You have to wait until you reach the Zhuji phase." Li Yundong let out a long sigh and said painfully, "Why do I have to wait until I reach the Zhuji phase?" Su Chan gently stroked Li Yundong's chest with her hand, helping him smooth out the qi in his chest and slowly calming down the rising desire in his body. Because only after you reach the Zhuji phase will the essence qi in your body be stable. Only then will the Yuanyang qi in your body not be seduced by my yin qi when we have sex, and then it will flow out of control. Li Yundong was stunned. "No way. Then how can I reach the Zhuji phase? What about the Zhuji phase?" Su Chan explained, "The Yellow Emperor's canon of internal medicine divides human cultivation into several stages, namely, the child body, the leakage body, the broken body, the weak body, and the weak body." Although Li Yundong was only one threshold away from the Zhuji phase, he was completely clueless when it came to the cultivation theory. He said with a blank face, "What do you mean? Explain?" Su Chan explained with a smile, "The Yellow Emperor's canon of internal medicine states that before the age of 16 for men and before the age of 14 for women, both men and women have not reached the Tiangui phase. Therefore, people have a child body. At this time, they don't need to reach the Zhuji phase to directly practice magic and magic." Li Yundong couldn't help but interrupt, "You don't mean the Tiangui phase of men and the menstruation phase of women, do you?" The little girl nodded, blushing. Li Yundong couldn't help laughing. "No way. Nowadays, how can people reach the Tiangui phase at the age of 16 or 14? Nowadays, children are becoming more and more precocious." Su Chan sighed and said, "That's why there are fewer and fewer cultivators nowadays. Once the inner disciples of orthodox cultivation sects are born, they must be taken away and specially raised. They must not let the food of the secular world make them mature prematurely, thus destroying their child body." Li Yundong nodded in understanding. "So that's how it is. I understand. Go on." Su Chan said, "Like you, who have reached the Tiangui phase after the age of 16, but still have a child body, is called a missing body. At this time, you must first restore the missing body, and then you can reach the Zhuji phase. If you have sex with me now, it will be a missing body, also known as a broken body. At this time, it will take twice the effort for half the result to cultivate. You must first consolidate the blood essence and make up the missing body, and then you can reach the Zhuji phase." Li Yundong said, "I see. What about the weak body and the weak body?" Su Chan said, "When a man is 56 years old and a woman is 42 years old, a man is 64 years old, and a woman is 49 years old. If you want to cultivate at this time, you have to spend 12 times the effort. First, you have to steal the essence of heaven and earth to make up for the already weak body, then you have to accumulate energy and enhance your vitality. Then, you have to consolidate the blood essence and make up the missing body. Then, you have to build the foundation and restore your child body. Finally, you can cultivate." Li Yundong suddenly understood. "I was wondering why those who achieved the Tao in ancient times all had white hair and a youthful face. It turns out that they have all been restored to a child's body?" Su Chan nodded and said, "Once you succeed in the Zhuji phase, the essence qi in your body will be as stable as Mount Tai. From then on, you will not be disturbed by the outside world, and there will be no loss of semen or menstruation. From then on, the human body will be a complete small universe. There will no longer be any loopholes, and no essence qi will leak out. Li Yundong said impatiently, then what are you waiting for? I'll go to the Zhuji phase now. Su Chan laughed and scolded, you pervert. Not now. The Zhuji phase is the most important thing for cultivators. There are only 2 opportunities in life. Once you miss them, there will be no hope for you to cultivate for the rest of your life. Li Yundong stared blankly and said, what do you mean by that? If I fail in the Zhuji phase twice, I won't be able to do it with you for the rest of my life, right? Su Chan covered her mouth and giggled. Yes, otherwise you will die from excessive semen. Li Yundong's face was full of heroic spirit, and he said righteously, I'm willing to die for you. Su Chan stamped her feet and said angrily, bah, don't talk nonsense. We both have to be good. In the future, we will travel all over the world together. Li Yundong laughed and said, okay. After saying so much, I can only say one thing. As long as we reach the Zhuji phase, we can do it, right? Su Chan's face had not been red for a long time, but at this time, it suddenly turned red again. She giggled and said coquettishly, you hooligan, you only know how to do bad things. Li Yundong laughed evilly. He held Su Chan in his arms and waved his hand heroically. Well, for the happiness of my girl, I want it. Zhuji. Zhuji/om/. Since the establishment of our Fox Zen school in the period of Emperor Xianzong of the Tang dynasty, there have only been 2 people who can be called immortals. One is the founder, Ancestor Rock, and the other is the 4th-generation leader, Mystical Silver Fox. Both of them have cultivated to the highest realm of the Fox Zen school and become real fox immortals. The others are all fox demons. Su Chan played with her braids, her eyes rolling in her sockets. She tilted her head and pursed her lips. As she thought, she said, my master said that if I didn't have a chance, it would be difficult for me to cultivate to the realm of the 6-tailed spiritual fox, let alone the highest realm of the 7-tailed divine fox, the 8-tailed earth fox, and the 9-tailed celestial fox. Li Yundong asked curiously, the more tails you have, the more powerful you are? Su Chan nodded and said, 9 is the largest number in the world, and it also represents the highest realm, such as Jiutian, and so on. There are also 9 levels of heaven in cultivation. It's the same for us. When we cultivate to the 9-tailed celestial fox, we will reach the peak. From then on, we can be ranked among the immortals and look down on the world. At this point, Su Chan suddenly pouted and said, if you hadn't stolen my Renyuan Jindan, maybe I would have been a 6-tailed spiritual fox by now. I'm so stupid, so I definitely won't be able to cultivate to the 6-tailed spiritual fox in the future. Li Yundong took Su Chan's hand and asked tentatively, didn't you say that collecting yang to nourish yin can also improve your cultivation? As he said this, Li Yundong patted his chest with a calm and righteous expression on his face. I will risk my life to accompany lady. Girl, come and pick me. If I frown, you are not a man. Su Chan laughed so hard that she was rocking back and forth. I'm not a real man. Li Yundong laughed and said, yes, yes. You are a free little itinerant immortal in the world. Su Chan giggled and looked at Li Yundong with a softer and more infatuated gaze. She clasped Li Yundong's fingers tightly and smiled sweetly. Yundong, I am so happy. Go to the internet. Li Yundong laughed and said, what are you so happy about? You are happy that I stole your Renyuan Jindan, or that you can collect yang to nourish yin later? She smiled and fell into his arms. She pressed her face against his warm and broad chest, listening to his strong heartbeat. Yundong, although I don't have the Renyuan Jindan, I have you by my side, she said in a sweet voice. Yundong, although I don't have the Renyuan Jindan anymore, I have you by my side. Although the Renyuan Jindan can make me a six-tailed fox spirit, with you by my side, I feel that even if I become a three-tailed fox spirit with little demon power in the future, I will still be very happy. These infatuated words made Li Yundong's heart ripple. Then, the wind whistled past his ears, and he felt as if he was sitting in a 200 km/h convertible sports car. Even the skin on his face was aching from the strong wind. Li Yundong opened his mouth to speak, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he felt a strong wind rushing in and forcibly swallowing his words. Li Yundong was shocked, and suddenly his heart began to beat wildly. This didn't matter, but the qi in his body suddenly sank, making his body become heavy. In the blink of an eye, Li Yundong felt his body fall violently. This violent sense of weightlessness made him feel as if he had stepped into the gate of hell, and his heart seemed to jump into his throat in an instant. Su Chan shouted in shock and fear, "Yundong, take a deep breath and put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Don't let your imagination run wild. We will fall to our death like this." Li Yundong immediately took a deep breath, put his tongue on the roof of his mouth, and tried to empty his mind, not thinking about the surrounding environment and the terrible feeling of falling. Soon, he felt his body shake and stopped falling in an instant. After a while, his feet suddenly sank, as if he had stepped on something solid. He heard Su Chan's frightened voice. "Okay, you can open your eyes now." Li Yundong opened his eyes and found himself in an inconspicuous street corner not far from the hotel. Beside him, Su Chan's face was ashen, and she kept patting her chest. What happened just now? Li Yundong took a deep breath, and his heart slowly fell back into his chest. Su Chan said angrily, "Why did you have to speak?" Li Yundong looked at Li Yundong helplessly and said, "You didn't say that I couldn't speak." Su Chan looked at Li Yundong helplessly and said, "So you're blaming me?" Li Yundong smiled and said, "Forget it. First time, second time. I'll know in the future. Besides, you should hurry up and teach me the Zhuji phase. When I succeed in the Zhuji phase and learn to fly, I won't have to be so scared anymore, right?" Su Chan thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "That's true. Well, let's go back quickly." Li Yundong suddenly thought of something and asked, "By the way, didn't you say that you want to fly? What kind of magic item do you use to fly?" Su Chan's cheeks suddenly turned red. She was too embarrassed to answer Li Yundong's question, so she just took his arm with both hands and urged him, "Hurry up and go back to the Zhuji phase." Li Yundong laughed and pinched the girl's cheek with his hand. "You're even more anxious than I am. TSK, little pervert." Su Chan smiled and said angrily, "Bah, you're the pervert. You only know how to do bad things after you finish the Zhuji phase." Although her words were accusatory, the corners of her eyes were full of the natural seductiveness of a little girl. She was secretly sending him glances, which made his heart beat faster. Li Yundong was tempted. Chapter 141. Go to watch net. After finishing the preparation work before the Zhuji phase, Li Yundong took a deep breath, closed his eyes slightly, put his tongue on the upper jaw, and gradually emptied his mind. Gradually, he felt a wave of heat rolling up from his waist, then to his dantian, then to his perineum, across the Magpie Bridge, to his Naiwan, and finally along the 8 extra meridians to the Baihui acupoint on the top of his head. Go to watch net. 7 K.O.M. Literature. At this time, Li Yundong only felt warm all over, and the thoughts in his mind gradually disappeared. Beside his ear, Su Chan softly recited Lu Dongbin's poem. Concentrate and adjust your breath. Listen to the true breath through your 5 senses and 7 apertures. Listening to the breath is the most important. The human heart and Taoist heart are interdependent. When the mortal breath stops, the true breath rises, unconsciously. When the true breath stops, the mortal breath rises, and the breath returns to the root and enters the lower field. The universe of oneself has heaven and earth, and the heart is higher than the sky and the kidney is higher than the earth. Exhale into the Tianyuan root, and inhale into the Tianyuan root. It is the truth of breath regulation that the true heart and true breath are always interdependent, and the spirit and qi are interdependent. Li Yundong heard it clearly. Although he didn't understand what this cultivation poem meant for a while, when his mind gradually emptied, his qi unconsciously ran according to the principles of this poem. Su Chan carefully looked at Li Yundong's eyelids. When people closed their eyes, apart from sleeping, as long as they were thinking, their eyeballs would always roll by themselves unconsciously. When Su Chan found that the eyeballs under Li Yundong's eyelids were no longer rolling, she knew that Li Yundong had entered a meditative state of silence. In this state, as soon as a person's thoughts were interrupted, the true God in his body would immediately appear automatically. This was what the cultivation poem said: when the divine sense is broken, the true God is born, and the true God is born to refine the primordial spirit. After Li Yundong entered a deep state of meditation, he found that he was once again in the spirit space he had created. He had transformed into an immovable wisdom king with 3 heads and 6 arms who could hold up the sky and earth. The last time Li Yundong controlled this true God with boundless divine power, he almost entered the realm of Mahasvara and was unable to extricate himself. This time, he was prepared in his heart, and it was difficult for his mind to be shocked by the boundless divine power in his body. Go to watch net. Li Yunyang tried to raise his hand. With a bang, countless dark clouds quickly rolled in the distant sky, and thunder rumbled. He waved his hand again, and with a crack, countless bolts of heavenly thunder fell from the sky. Su Chan poked the Lingtai acupoint with her finger, and it was as if she was poking a finger to let out blood. As she poked the Lingtai acupoint with her finger, the surging qi in Li Yundong's body immediately found an opening. Su Chan poked the Lingtai acupoint to release the qi, and at the same time, she poured her own yin qi into Li Yundong's body through the Baihui acupoint on the top of Li Yundong's head, using this to calm the crazily flowing Yuanyang qi in his body. But she hadn't expected that the Yuanyang qi in Li Yundong's body would be far stronger than she had expected. As soon as she poured her yin qi into Li Yundong's body, a powerful Yuanyang qi immediately counterattacked. This counterattack was so fierce that it invaded Su Chan's body in the blink of an eye, making her feel the bone-deep desire that Li Yundong had sunk into the sea of desire. Su Chan was unable to move under the impact of the powerful qi in Li Yundong's body. Her expression was one of pain and fear, and a trace of despair flashed through her mind. It's over, we're both finished. How could this be? /om/ Shenhui giggled and said, I'm thick-skinned. Cousin, you're not angry anymore. Yin Mengfan shook her head helplessly. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with a tissue and said angrily, You're so annoying. You made me angry as soon as you came here. My makeup is all ruined. Shenhui shook Yin Mengfan's arm and said coquettishly, Cousin, you're a natural beauty. Don't be afraid. Yin Mengfan stood up and said with a wry smile, Forget it, I'm afraid of you. Let's go. It wasn't easy for me to find out Li Yundong's whereabouts from Zhou Qin. Zhou Qin is waiting for me at school. Don't let her wait too long. Go watch the net. Shenhui pouted and said, There are so many capable people in the world. Why do you have to look for him? I don't believe that he has any real talent. Yin Mengfan quickly touched up her makeup and said, Didn't you see it with your own eyes that day? Isn't it true? Shenhui tilted her head and snorted coldly. He must be a blind cat running into a dead mouse. Or he colluded with that B*TCH Chow Kefi. Yin Mengfan was furious. How can you talk about people like that? Then you don't have to go. Stay here, or go wherever you want. Shen Hui was shocked and quickly put on a pitiful look. I know. I'll be good later, okay? However, her eyes were rolling in her eyes, and she was secretly thinking about how to embarrass Li Yundong later. Yin Mengfan had no time to guess what she was thinking. She took the car key and rushed to the underground parking lot with Shen Hui, then drove to Tiannan University. 20 minutes later, Yin Mengfan parked an Audi A6 at the school gate. She lowered the window and saw that Zhou Qin was standing at the school gate with a book in her arms, talking to two girls. Zhou Qin. Yin Mengfan stuck her head out of the window and waved her hand. Zhou Qin followed the voice and looked over, then nodded at her. She turned her head and said something to the two girls beside her. Then the three girls walked over together. President Yin. Zhou Qin approached and greeted her with a smile. Yin Mengfan also got out of the car and looked at the two girls beside Zhou Qin curiously. Zhou Qin smiled faintly and said, I went to Li Yundong's residence this morning, but he wasn't there. Later, I met these two senior sisters of mine. After chatting for a while, I found out that Li Yundong had moved out again. Well, let me introduce them. These two senior sisters are Feng Na and Cheng Cheng. They know where Li Yundong lives now, and they happen to be looking for Li Yundong, so I think we might as well go together. Yin Mengfan smiled and extended her hand to the two of them. She said in a reserved and polite manner, Hello, I'm Yin Mengfan from Dongxing Real Estate. Nice to meet you. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng shook hands with Yin Mengfan and complimented each other politely. Zhou Qin said, Then I'll go get my car. Feng Na, Cheng Cheng, will you take my car? She sighed faintly and said, He is too mysterious. I can never see through him. But the more I can't see through him, the more I want to get closer to him to take a look. Hearing Zhou Qin's words, Chow Kefi, Feng Na, and Cheng Cheng all fell silent. They all sighed in their hearts, yes, Zhou Qin is right. This boy seems to have a magical power, attracting them unconsciously to get close to him, understand him, and own him. Li Yundong, who are you? Why are you so mysterious, /om/? She pondered for a while, then suddenly raised her head and shouted to the waiter, Open the door. The waiter was shocked and said weakly, I'm sorry, we have rules, we can't. Before he could finish his words, Zhou Qin glanced at him coldly and said, If something happens to the people inside, can you bear the responsibility? Open the door. The waiter looked at the beautiful women with a face full of hesitation and grievance. He hesitated for a while, then took out his room card and unlocked the door. Zhou Qin couldn't wait to press the doorknob, open the door, and then push it open and enter. This room wasn't big to begin with, and with 6 lively beauties of all sizes pouring in, it immediately became unbearably crowded. As soon as they entered the room, they found that Li Yundong was sitting cross-legged on the bed, with his back facing them. Behind him stood Su Chan. Su Chan pressed one hand on Li Yundong's back and the other on his head. White qi was constantly rising from the top of Su Chan's head. This white qi condensed and did not dissipate, looking mysterious and strange. Whether it was Zhou Qin, Feng Na, Cheng Cheng, Yin Mengfan, Chow Kefi, or Shen Hui, they had all more or less seen Li Yundong's extraordinary skills. They had all secretly guessed where Li Yundong's extraordinary kung fu came from. Today, they had seen Li Yundong with their own eyes. For a moment, they were curious and nervous. Unconsciously, their footsteps became much lighter, and they didn't dare to say a word. Zhou Qin and the others came to the front of Li Yundong. With just a little look, they immediately blushed. They saw that Li Yundong's expression was beautiful and happy, as if he had dreamed of something wonderful. A tent was set up high between his legs. Judging from the scale, the thing inside was obviously very huge and terrifying. Behind him, Su Chan also had a happy expression on her face. Her cheeks were flushed, her sinuses were closed, and there was a slight moan coming from her nose, which made people's imagination run wild. For a moment, the women in the room blushed and turned their heads, but they secretly looked at Li Yundong's body out of the corner of their eyes. Shen Hui sneered and secretly spat in her heart, this shameless couple. So many people came to find them, but they were hiding here and fooling around. However, when she saw that Li Yundong and Su Chan's posture really didn't look like that between a man and a woman, she couldn't help slapping Li Yundong on the shoulder and shouting, "Hey, are you still alive? So many people are looking for." Before Shen Hui could finish her sentence, her hand suddenly shook, and the Laogong acupoint in the palm of her hand was suddenly rushed open by the powerful Yuanyang qi in Li Yundong's body. A majestic and vigorous Yuanyang force rushed up along the Hanjuyan pericardium meridian in her hand. Shen Hui's whole body shook violently. Chapter 144. Go to watch net. The great horror between reality and illusion was that it was difficult for people to tell what was real and what was fake. Go to watch net. Although Li Yundong had completely woken up now, he still couldn't tell whether what had happened in the illusion was real or not, especially when he found himself with two girls he didn't like in the illusion. When he opened his eyes, these two girls were right in front of him. How could this not make Li Yundong feel uneasy? Li Yundong's eyes were blank for a long time before he came to his senses. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, looked up at Zhou Qin and the others in the room, and smiled dryly. Then he lowered his head, patted the girl on the shoulder, and asked tentatively, "Hey, what are you crying for?" There was no reason for the girl not to cry. Cultivators only had two chances to reach the Zhuji phase in their lives. The first one, which was supposed to be a sure success, had almost caused both of them to die. If it hadn't been for the coincidence of Zhou Qin and the others, the two of them would have had to go to the bridge of helplessness. Thinking about it now, the girl was especially scared. She hated herself for not being thoughtful, but she was also afraid that what if Li Yundong failed to reach the Zhuji phase the next time? What would she do then? Su Chan put her arms around Li Yundong's waist and cried loudly. There was an indescribable sadness in her cry. Li Yundong had ulterior motives in his heart. Listening to the cry, he naturally felt more and more uncomfortable. He felt that the girl seemed to have suffered some great grievance, and his heart became more and more afraid. Did I really do something wrong to Su Chan? No way. I'm not such a beast, am I? Thinking of this, Shen Hui, who had been standing in the same place with a dull expression, suddenly blushed and stamped her feet. She scolded in a low voice, "Beast." Then her tears fell, and she turned around and rushed out. Damn it! This expression, this tone, isn't it the appearance of those chaste women in old movies after they have been insulted? Li Yundong's mind buzzed. No way, did I really do something beastly? Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Would this girl rush in with a pair of scissors and yell, "I'm going to cut you," or something like that? Li Yundong waited for a long time in a daze. Fortunately, he didn't see Shen Hui rush back. Yin Mengfan saw Shen Hui rush out as if she had suffered some great grievance. For a moment, she didn't know whether she should chase after her or stay. Chao Kefi, who was beside her, pushed her and whispered, "Hurry up and catch up with her. Shen Hui has a childish temper. Don't let anything happen to her. If there's anything here, we can talk about it another day. Watch net." Only then did Yin Mengfan sigh in her heart. She said goodbye to Li Yundong and hurriedly chased after him. It was none other than Lu, the one who had clashed with him several times before. Su Chan also saw it clearly. She pulled Li Yundong's sleeve and said, "Hey, Yundong, isn't this the one I kicked last time? Why are so many people chasing after him?" While they were talking, Lu had already run out of their line of sight. 7 or 8 gangsters with iron rods in their hands were hot on his heels. "Stop right there. You can run away, but you can't run away from the temple," the gangsters shouted fiercely. "Pay me back now, or I'll kill you." Li Yundong recalled how Lu had tried to threaten Su Chan last time. His anger flared up again. He sneered. "Humph. This is what they call those who commit too much evil will bring about their own destruction. Serves you right. Karma. What's wrong?" Chow Kefi asked curiously. "Did something happen between you two?" Feng Na told her what had happened from beginning to end. Chow Kefi couldn't help but sneer and scold, "You deserve it. You could have taken the right path, but you chose to take the crooked path. Karma will come to him sooner or later." As she spoke, Lu suddenly tripped and fell to the ground, as if to prove her words were true. Perhaps Lu had run too fast, but when he turned around to look at his pursuers, he tripped and fell to the ground with a thud. His pursuers immediately caught up to him and surrounded him tightly. They punched and kicked him while cursing, F***ck. "Why aren't you paying me back? F***ck. If you don't pay me back, I'll cripple you." Lu curled his body into a ball to protect his chest and head. He was howling in pain from the beatings. Go to see net. 7KOM. Net. Super_speed. Faster. New. At first, Li Yundong thought it was a great way to vent his anger. But after a while, a middle-aged woman ran towards him, wailing loudly. "Stop. Stop. You're going to kill me. Oh, my son. What have you done to deserve this? Hey, isn't that?" Su Chan recognized the middle-aged woman immediately. It was the woman who had gotten into a fight with Li Yundong at the market. Li Yundong frowned, but said nothing. The middle-aged woman didn't care about the menacing iron rods in the hoodlum's hands. She rushed forward and threw herself on top of Lu to protect her son. She was like an old mother hen protecting her chick. She spread out her wings to protect her son from any harm. The leader of the group was a bald, green-skinned gangster. He pointed an iron rod at Lu's mother and yelled, "Get the F***ck out of my way, you old bastard. Your son owes money and he doesn't want to pay it back. Are you going to pay it for him?" The middle-aged woman's tears and snot streamed down her face. "Son, what kind of money do you owe this time? I told you not to gamble. Why won't you listen to me? There's no way this family can take this kind of loss." Ever since Lu had been taught a harsh lesson by Su Chan at the school gates, he had been teased by others on the streets for being beaten up by a delicate little girl. He was a little disheartened, so he abandoned himself to despair and started gambling in the casino every day. But the casino was a ruthless place. 9 out of 10 gamblers lost. In just a few days, he was in a lot of debt. At first, he could still ask for money from his family, but his mother found out and stopped giving him money. So Lu started stealing things from the house and selling them. But now that everything was gone, he was being chased and beaten up on the streets. Lu looked at his mother with a face full of shame. He stammered, "I couldn't help it, could I? Mom, if you pay me back, I swear I'll never gamble again." Lu's mother wailed. You've sold all the valuable things in the house. There's only a few plots of land left in the countryside that you can't sell. What else have you not sold? Tell me, do you still want to sell our family's lifeblood? The hoodlum snorted coldly. Oh, you still have a few plots of land in the house? Fine, this kid owes us 180,000 yuan. Let's sell your land as collateral. F***ck, go back and get the real estate certificate. These plots of land were Heir Lu's family jewels. How could Heir Lu's mother be willing to give them away? She was so agitated that she shouted, "Oh my God, what kind of world is this? You want to seize my land in broad daylight? Not only do you force me to gamble, but now you want to force me to die. You're so cruel, I'm going to kill you." After saying that, she rushed toward the gangster with the green skin. The green-skinned thug was furious. He kicked Heir Lu's mother and sent her tumbling backward. He pointed a finger at her nose and cursed, "You shameless B***tch. A life for a life, and a debt must be repaid. This is the law of the land. Besides, there's no such thing as forcing someone to gamble. Your son was the one who wanted to gamble, so you're blaming me." Heir Lu's eyes turned bloodshot when he saw his mother being beaten. He charged at the hoodlum like an enraged beast. "How dare you hit my mother? I'll beat you to death." The hoodlum was caught off guard and fell to the ground. In his panic, he took a flurry of punches. The hoodlums around him immediately surrounded him. A flurry of sticks hit Heir Lu, and he fell to the ground in a few hits. Heir Lu rolled on the ground in pain and squealed like a pig being slaughtered. His mother felt like a knife was being twisted in her heart. She cried out to the passers-by, "Help! Help!" However, the passers-by either stopped to watch, pointed, or sneered. Not a single person stepped in to help. Not even one person dialed 110. The fickleness of the world and the fickleness of human nature were on full display. Su Chan couldn't bear to watch it and said in a low voice, "Yundong, it seems that he still has some intention to protect his mother." As he spoke, he smiled evilly and reached out to pull Ding Nan's arm. "I really didn't expect you to have such means and brains. How about coming over and fighting me? I won't treat you badly." Ding Nan quietly dodged young Master He's claws. She twisted her waist and walked gracefully to the door. Then, she looked back and smiled. "Thank you for your concern, young Master He. I think it's better for me to keep a distance from you now. Otherwise, Zhou Qin will definitely suspect me." After saying that, she opened the door and gestured to young Master He seductively. "Bye-bye." Then, she closed the door and left. Young Master He stared at her back as she disappeared into the door. The smile on his face disappeared bit by bit, and his eyes were filled with a strange light. He snorted coldly. "Vicious woman." Young Master He's gaze was fixed on one place, like a cold poisonous snake that was about to devour someone at any time. He sat there for nearly an hour before he took out another phone from his pocket and dialed a number. "Hello, is this Zhou Qin?" "It's me. I have something to tell you. /om/" Li Yundong looked around and found that many students were looking at their table. Some of them were even taking pictures with their phones. Although Li Yundong had experienced many things that ordinary people couldn't, and his personality had become much calmer, he was still a teenager. He laughed and simply threw caution to the wind. He stood up, rolled up his sleeves, and said loudly, "Okay, I'll sing a song for you today. Listen carefully. From now on, I'll sing it once in the morning and once in the evening. I promise you that you'll pass the exam. After that, Li Yundong sang loudly, "My home lives on the Lus Plateau. The wind blows on the slope. Whether it's Li Yuchen or Zheng Yike, they're all my brothers. My home lives on the Lus Plateau. The sun blows on the slope. Whether it's Brother Chun or Brother Zheng, please bless me and bless me." Before he finished singing, the cafeteria burst into laughter. Zhou Qin couldn't care less about her ladylike image anymore. She laughed so hard that she almost fell into the bowl in front of her. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng even hugged each other, laughing so hard that they were on the verge of death. Chao Kefi was also laughing so hard that she kept wiping away her tears. She kept rubbing her stomach, shaking her head and secretly praising Li Yundong. Not only does this little guy have extraordinary skills, but he also has a pure heart and treats people with sincerity. He's also so funny. How can I not like him? The only one who didn't laugh was Su Chan. She didn't know what was so funny about it, but she saw that everyone around her was laughing. It seemed that she had to laugh, so she forced a dry laugh. The girl laughed for a while, then suddenly felt very wronged. She felt that she had nothing in common with Li Yundong. Humph, what's so great about him? I want to go to this school in the future. No, that's not right. Yundong said it was a university. Humph, I want to go to this university in the future. After Li Yundong finished singing, he smiled at the students around him, who were laughing so hard that they were rocking back and forth. Do you all remember it? Among the giggling students, there were some who were thick-skinned and brave enough to shout out loudly, "Remember." Li Yundong nodded and waved at the students in a very stylish manner. All right, remember to sing twice in the morning and twice in the evening. I promise you that you won't fail any subjects in the future. The students all agreed loudly, then turned around and started eating again. However, their laughter and conversation couldn't stop talking about Li Yundong, who had just sung passionately. No one knew why a youth who was usually low-key and ordinary would suddenly become an influential figure who would be the center of attention no matter where he went. But at this time, no one was going to look back on this matter. They were more interested in what kind of wonderful conversation topic Li Yundong had brought them. Even Li Yundong himself didn't know that this song, "Believe in Brother Chun, Believe in Brother Zheng, Don't Fail Subjects," had quickly become popular throughout Tiannan University and became the unofficial school song. It was sung all year round when it came to exams. After greeting the students around him with a smile, Li Yundong sat down. Feng Na fell into Cheng Cheng's arms with a smile on her face. She panted and said, "Li Yundong, stop it. My intestines are going to break from laughing. Are you going to let me eat or not?" Li Yundong said innocently, "It's not that I want to play. You guys asked me to sing." Zhou Qin was about to say something when she suddenly heard a weak voice next to her. "Li Yundong, hello. Can we sit down here?" The table of handsome men and beautiful women turned their heads in unison and looked in the direction of the voice. Li Yundong took a look and saw two girls standing in front of the table. They were beautiful and looked exactly the same. Their clothes were the same, but the headbands on their heads were different. One was wearing a red headband, and the other was wearing a blue headband. They were the beautiful sisters Deng Yu and Deng Jiao, whom he had met before. /om/ Su Chan secretly pinched Li Yundong's arm, signaling him not to reveal anything about the cultivation world. Only then did Li Yundong wake up and change the subject. "Nothing, let's go now." The three of them left the school gate, got into Chao Kefi's flashy sports car, and ran toward the city center. At this time, in a car with a red flag near Tiannan University, Zi Yuan was holding an antique glass mirror in her hand and looking at it attentively. In this ancient mirror, the scene of Li Yundong, Su Chan, and Chao Kefi talking and laughing in the car was reflected. Zi Yuan's expression was indifferent, as if she were an otherworldly master, indifferently looking at all the people in the world, watching the threads of shackles and fate entangled together. Ruan Hongling, who was sitting next to her, suddenly pointed at Chao Kefi in the mirror and said, "Sister Zi Yuan, why does this person feel so strange?" Zi Yuan nodded and said, "This person's 3 souls and 7 spirits are incomplete. Among the 3 souls, the heaven soul and the earth soul are not in his body. Among the 7 spirits, the qi, the power, the essence, and the heroic spirit are also missing. It is indeed very strange." Ruan Hongling said strangely, "There is such a person in this world. He can live with only 1 soul and 3 spirits? It's really weird." As she spoke, she suddenly said, "Sister Zi Yuan, how long are we going to observe him like this? If my magical item stays in his hands for 1 more day, it will cost me more spiritual qi to refine it back in the future." Zi Yuan glanced at her faintly. "Didn't you say that you were going to take it back yourself?" Ruan Hongling suddenly blushed and said guiltily, "How can I take it back by myself?" Zi Yuan stared at the Tong Tian glass mirror in front of her, not looking at Ruan Hongling beside her. She said meaningfully, "Are you really alone?" Ruan Hongling knew that she couldn't hide it from her Shiji. She braced herself and said, "I'm going to take back what belongs to me." "Is that wrong?" Zi Yuan's tone was cold, and she said sternly, "You actually went to find the people of the Divine Fist sect to deal with an ordinary person who has not yet reached the Zhuji phase. If this gets out, how will others look at our Linggong sect?" Ruan Hongling straightened her neck and said loudly, "That guy obviously has a witch by his side. He is also alone. Why can't I find a helper? Moreover, he is the successor of Jin Dan. How can he be measured as an ordinary person? He roared with qi, and I was almost scared out of my wits. Aren't you worried that I will die in his hands? Instead, you are worried that I will hurt your future husband? In your heart, I, a Shiji who has been with you for more than 10 years, am not as good as a newcomer who you have never met." Zi Yuan was furious, and her 2 willowy eyebrows slowly raised. However, when she looked at Ruan Hongling's stubborn face, the anger in her heart slowly subsided. He would never let Su Chan get involved in the big vat of the film and television industry. Go to see. If Li Yundong only entered this industry on his own, it would be fine. With his strength and Chao Kefi's means, there would be a day when he would stand out. But if Su Chan entered this industry, it would definitely attract the coveting of all parties. Which man wouldn't want to have Su Chan for himself? All kinds of thoughts flashed through Chao Kefi's mind. She patted Li Yundong on the shoulder and pointed to a large banquet hall on the west side of the hall. "Hey, over there." Li Yundong looked over and saw a red and black sign at the entrance of the large banquet hall, Sword Rain Jianghu, Kickoff Celebration Ceremony. "Don't tell me you put this up for auction?" Li Yundong asked with a smile. Chao Kefi laughed. "How could I have so much money? Nowadays, how can a TV series be filmed without an 8-figure sum? If I had so much money, would I have been chased so badly by the debt collectors?" Li Yundong asked in confusion. "Then what is this?" Chao Kefi laughed. "I'm the producer." "The producer is someone else." "Oh, right. When we go in later, I'll tell them that you are friends of the media." Li Yundong was stunned. "No way. Isn't that a blatant lie?" Chao Kefi bumped Li Yundong's arm with her shoulder and smiled slyly. "Don't be silly. There will be red packets. Then, she led Li Yundong and Su Chan to the door without waiting for Li Yundong to say anything else. A middle-aged man in his 40s with a crew cut stood at the door. As soon as he saw Chow Kefi, he laughed enthusiastically. "Yo, President Chow, you're early." Chow Kefi was wearing a black evening gown. Her long skirt touched the ground with a low-cut V-shape. A sparkling gemstone necklace hung on her chest, making her look noble, elegant, sexy, and charming. Chow Kefi laughed. "President Wang is welcoming us personally? How rare." The middle-aged man called President Wang looked at Li Yundong and Su Chan and asked with a smile, "Who are these two handsome men and beautiful women? Don't tell me they are newcomers from your company? They are of good quality." Chow Kefi covered her mouth and laughed. "How could I have the luck to sign such good quality newcomers? They are friends of the media. Go to Kanban." President Wang immediately took out 2 red packets and stuffed them into Li Yundong and Su Chan's hands. He smiled and said, "Oh, so you are friends from the media. Sorry for not recognizing you. Please come in." Thanks to Chow Kefi's reminder, Li Yundong had a rough idea of what was going to happen. He accepted the red envelope without batting an eyelid. Su Chan, on the other hand, blinked and stared at the red envelope, not knowing what it meant. Li Yundong quickly cleared his throat and accepted the red packet on Su Chan's behalf. Then, he smiled at President Wang. "Sorry, she is a new intern. She doesn't know the rules." Su Chan's eyes lit up. She grabbed Li Yundong's arm and shook it hard. "Open it. Open it." Ever since Li Yundong had gone bankrupt, their lives had been going from bad to worse. They were short of money. Suddenly seeing that they had money, Su Chan immediately smiled. Li Yundong was just about to open the red envelope to take a look when he heard a strange man's voice coming from behind him. "Hey, isn't this the legendary Master Tan Shui mentioned?" Li Yundong turned around and saw a young, handsome man standing together with a fashionably dressed beautiful woman. They were looking him up and down. "You are?" Li Yundong asked, puzzled. The handsome young man was wearing a pure white suit. He was 1.85 meters tall, nearly half a head taller than Li Yundong. Although he was tall and had an extraordinary temperament, when he stood in front of Li Yundong, he immediately felt dwarfed. It was as if he had to look up at the young man who was even shorter than him. The handsome young man had been listening to Tan Shui's gossip. She had seen the horrifying fight between Li Yundong and Lin Youfa in the bathroom last time. He had always scoffed at the incident. Everyone in the circle knows that Tan Shui is a big mouth, right? It's good enough that even 10% of what she says can be trusted. Tan Shui. The handsome young man looked Li Yundong up and down. The loathing and rejection of the same sex made him subconsciously belittle and look down on Li Yundong. He turned around and waved at Tan Shui. "Is this the guy you're talking about?" Tan Shui and Li Yundong had a bit of a dirty relationship. She had always thought that Li Yundong was a pretty boy kept by Chow Kefi and only knew how to act cool and pretentious. But after seeing Li Yundong's terrifying skills with her own eyes, she realized that he was not a pretentious boy, but a pretentious hero. Although Tan Shui was still a little embarrassed to see Li Yundong, her tone was full of surprise and admiration when she talked about him behind his back. Standing in front of Tan Shui was Zhang Guozheng and another young man with a crew cut and wearing a red tang suit. Tan Shui was wearing a beautiful cheongsam, looking sexy and attractive. She greeted Li Yundong a little unnaturally. Despite the previous conflict, Li Yundong still nodded politely to her. When Zhang Guozheng saw Li Yundong, his eyes were full of fear, as if he had seen a big devil. He avoided Li Yundong's eyes and didn't dare to greet Li Yundong. However, the young man in the red tang suit standing in front of Tan Shui came up. He looked at Li Yundong with a pair of bright eyes, then cupped his hands and said, I'm Shi Neng, a disciple of the Northern Shaolin Temple, the successor of the Iron Palm. I heard that your kung fu is good. I wonder which sect do you practice? Li Yundong noticed that although the young man was not tall, only 1.7 meters, his temples were high and his arms were abnormally thick.